pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It would have been another 5 minutes with the tie. So.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as is required by Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, with respect to the Home News Tribune to publish the same. This announcement must be entered into the minutes of the meeting. Roll call.
Chairman Engel?
Here.
Commissioner Franklin?
Present.
Commissioner Katz?
Here.
Commissioner Valente?
Here. Adoption of the minutes of August 3rd.
Move we
regular
adopt the
public
minutes.
meeting.
Move we adopt the minutes of the August 3rd meeting. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Valente?
Yes. Okay. Old business, none. New business administration reports. We'll take you first, please.
Okay. As far as voting machines, we did complete changing all the AA batteries inside the results cartridges. Repaired whichever ones we possibly could. They don't give us too many outside plastic, so when they drop them, break them, usually kind of cannibalize what we have. We finished the voting machine repairs themselves as well from the primary, and we are currently still working on the pre-lab testing and all the test protocols for the November election cycle. What is that? I don't think it was the date. I believe it was August 15th. The state came in and did an audit. Or the Division of Elections came in and did an audit on our state protocol checklists and certifications from the 2016 general election. Like I stated in the last meeting, they basically will randomly pick whichever one are supposed to come once a year, and that's court ordered. They came in, they basically, we gave them everything. They wanted it in specific order, but never told us that. So then they tried to tell us and our staff that we had to do it, and I was like, no, we're not. They said it's here, and I said, do we have everything? And they said, yeah, and I'm like, we'll have fun. Now that you gave us some kind of guidelines, we will go ahead and set that up for next time. So we will work with them whatever they want. The guys know what they need to do from this point on, but it was never explained to us early. What I did hear as far as rumor mill is apparently they said that there are a few people doing a couple of things, like every county's doing something wrong, it's the same thing. But again, their lack of information is why we're doing it, probably the way that they don't want it or whatever. So until they exactly set us up with something. They have not given us a report of results on what's going on as far as what's issued yet. We're waiting from them. So I guess that we're waiting. They must want to do the whole 21 counties first and then come back. On September 26th, which is the special school board election, we'll be shipping a training machine over to the NSEF, Levinson as well, over to the Alliance Center for Independence on Amboy Avenue in Edison for a handicapped voting machine demonstration that we do. We do it once a year, and basically we'll demonstrate the machine in a wheelchair position and also the audio kits and how it's used. They're having a little bit of like a little registration drive there too, and they do this once a year, so they like it, and we always really work with them. So they're holding it from 10:30 to 10:30 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon.
Whereabouts is that, Steve?
What's that?
Whereabouts is on Amboy Avenue?
They said it's across from Our Lady of Peace. Or Our Lady of
No, it is. It's in that office. No,
Yeah, it's in
no,
that
office
office.
building. It's
Yeah,
in that
it's-
office building on the first
Yes,
floor.
that's what he said, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's in the office building.
Yeah.
Right.
I know we're supposed to take the machine around the back
Right.
entrance as far as delivering it. but
That's where Wick is, yeah. Where Wick was.
They're great to deal. Like, dealing with them has been wonderful for the last, been doing it for like 3 or 4 years now, and
It's a
they're
good
really
thing.
great. Yeah.
A very nice group.
Yes. As far as special election, we're sending out a total of 14 machines, and that's consolidated districts. Not every district is consolidated, and that will cover both the towns of Middlesex and Spotswood / Elmetta, because they are together. Here's the fun part: buildings and grounds. We have the county subcontractor, the county and the subcontractor still working on the pump. They basically drilled a hole through our wall and then ran an electrical pipe on the outside to get to that pump, and they're just running it down. Seems like it's going all right, so we have no problems with that. They're going to hook up the electricity tomorrow, and from what I hear from Patrick, that's going to be the end of it. They should be completely finished. So once they get it up and running, at this point in time, nobody needs to come back unless there's obviously something wrong with the sewer pump itself. Right now, we did have a fire inspection, like a month ago or so, and we failed a few things. We haven't had new updates on our fire extinguishers for 10 years. So they still work, by the way, because somebody lit a fire in our dumpster and we just put it out with fire extinguishers, so they actually still work. Even though it said 2007, it worked when we needed it, and that was like 2 years ago. But basically, they took all of our fire extinguishers out except 4. We have them kind of at the exits right now. They're going to bring them all back. They're going to be all updated and sealed. They also had an issue with our fire exit signs. Some of them weren't lit. I mean, it's been a while and nobody's been checking up on it. So they went and replaced all the exit signs. They're all lit up now, and they have lights so that if the power goes out, those lights shoot out so you have some kind of vision to get out of the building. The only issue that we have with that is if you walk into the main warehouse, if you look to the right, there's a door, not the actual bay door, but there's a door that leads into the addition that used to have an exit sign over it because it used to lead to the outside. That, when they did new construction, they left that sign, and for years it was up and always lit up. Then, I'd say like 4 or 5 years ago, somebody came in, the fire inspector, and said, it's not leading outside, so it can't be considered an exit. So they had us cover that whole thing up. This new fire inspector comes in and says, oh no, that should be lit up and it should be. So I'm like, look, I know it's about interpretation with people like that, but I need it in writing before I go ahead and let them put another exit sign up that's gonna be lit up, and then they're gonna come back and fail us again. I want it in writing by one of those fire inspectors first, that you want this done and you're certifying that it's okay. So until I get in writing, we're not changing it. Because I'm not going to have some other person come in and interpret it that it's wrong. I'm not doing this. Because I already know this is what happens all the time. So that's okay. I was like, you tell me to change it in writing, and you said that then it'll be valid, and then, and only then, I will keep that, and then I will hang it up next to that light on purpose, so that the next inspector who comes in doesn't fail us. Because I don't feel like dealing with that on a normal basis. So they are doing all that, and they did fail us for our fire door. And the fire doors, it's the door that runs from the main warehouse into the addition. Okay, there's a fire door on the other side where it actually dropped down if there is a fire. They said there's some kind of mechanism in there that failed. I know for a fact they come once a year every September and they actually update it. So, but he came in again a month ago and he said that it's failed, so he doesn't think it'll work. I don't think he knows the technique, the whole technology of it, but I was like, whatever, so the county's bringing somebody in next week. And then after that, our 3 violations will be taken care of, and won't have any issues. And then Nigerian is back again. They called and first Jim told me because they contacted him first, but they wanted to come back out. They want to drill 2 more holes in our floors and make 2 new wells, like they already have currently in them. And first he's telling me he wants it in the middle of the warehouse. I'm like, no, that's absolutely not going to happen. I'll allow them 2 more holes if they stay along that same wall. They're not coming out in the middle, and they're not messing anything up, especially because we don't even, like at first they were trying to say, well, we'll go in between the machine where the machines are slated, but if we get new machines, the whole layout might be different. So it's like, no, absolutely not. That's not going to work. And so I argued with this guy, and he's like, the state may force you to do it. I'm like, until somebody forces me to do it, I'm not letting you do anything.
Now,
I'll allow him to have the 2 holes.
They do have a monitoring well
Yes.
straight across on the outside. So they can measure it where one outside wall and then the other outside wall. So
Yeah.
anything that moves in between, they can get 2 readings.
And he's telling me he needs to be in between in order to get the satisfying reading. And that the ground is contaminated in that spot because they used to have I guess like a gas tank or oil tank or whatever that was out there behind the building. And that would be the parks department. So, I explained this like about a year ago. So we're still dealing with that, and they only have the 1 inside the warehouse, and now they're stating they need more. Again, they're not walking out in the middle of the floor. They'll get the edge where that is, they can go along the side of that wall, and I'm okay with that. I told him, so it was gonna be 1. Now he's adding another 1, and I told him, at first I was saying no. Now he tells me he's putting in his budget, and the job, actually, along with the budget, it's gonna be continued. So when they're finished and everything is now cleared out, and they say we're okay and up to standards, that they're gonna send in somebody that's gonna fill it with concrete, a professional, and then put our tiles back and get rid of the well with the plate. Because I told them, I'm like, once these plates are set and you're done, 5-10 years from now, if they start rusting out, the county, no one's gonna be here for that. We're gonna get stuck, there's gonna be a hole in our floor, that's what's gonna happen to us. And I'm like, and I'm not okay with that. I'm like, because one thing I know about the county, you may not get anything, but you never give up what you have. You know, and I was like, this time, I'm not allowing that. So until somebody higher up than me comes in here and says, this is what you have to do, I'll wait for the state. And he's getting a little frustrated, but I don't really care, it's not beating up our building. First of all, we didn't do it. It's not like we had a gas tank out there, and it's something we have to suffer for years later. This is something that was out of our control, so I'm not interested in giving up our floors. He says he's gonna schedule with me, and his people are only gonna put it where I tell them, and that's it. That's all. And I'll let him do any other damage.
Question.
Yes,
Voting machine repairs.
yes.
Years back, we had big problems with mover, et cetera. Are these typical, and are there any particular issues, or it's just
It's
standard
standard now.
and
It's plastic breaking just because you're touching it.
so it's not anyone's special fault?
No, it's
Okay.
electronical because the CPUs are going.
No, I'm trying to get
It's
that.
literally, it's just wear and tear. It's us trying to push these old machines.
No, I
forward.
got it. And the other thing is, just remind me, on the sewer pump, it's the sump pump and hole, there's not sump pump. The sewer pump is, they didn't move a location, they're just moving where the electricity
It's
is.
coming from, yeah.
So the location of the sewer pump is the same?
Yes, it was always on our side of the street.
Yeah.
And they had it running under the street, but you can't get to it anymore. So
Okay,
they're
no,
like-
I thought so. I wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's it, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions? No. Linda, you're next.
Okay, I didn't put it in my report, but we are collecting for Hurricane Harvey. I sent you guys the list of items that they're looking for. Some other county employees are also bringing items here. Sharonda found a company in South Brunswick that will truck it down there. I think they have a company out there.
Terminus trucking.
Yeah, and they have a company out in Texas that were
Yeah, they were affected in
affected.
Houston, right?
So we're collecting items here. We're gonna deliver it by Monday. They want it by the next Friday. We go tomorrow.
You emailed us the list, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a webinar today talking about the new SRS system. They plan on rolling it out in December of this year and going live March of 2018. It was mostly about the county clerk, how they answer mail-in ballots, but it was pretty interesting. I think it's going to be a lot better.
Good.
In regards to the special election, the poll books were generated today, and Maria emailed Reliance Graphics the sample ballots, so they're going out shortly. We print the poll books in-house, and we'll be buying them, getting the supplies together. I contacted the municipal clerks to tell them they have to pick up the supplies. We don't hire a trucking company for that, so they know that.
Can you just confirm with the two clerks that they received their authority to vote slips?
Sure. Oh, no, they're here. I'm sorry, they're
they're
here.
here?
Yes, they've been here for like a week.
So they delivered
We're gonna put
here
it together,
instead?
yeah.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
sorry. Thanks, Maria. Sample ballots, there were about 25,000 that came back from the primary. All transfers are done, all inactive are done. Research is always ongoing, and scanning of all 25,000 is gonna start shortly. The voter participation, I don't know if you're gonna talk about that, Mr. Volkel, but we've been having a lot of complaints about that. I think you have that information. They send out the voter participation. I guess you're gonna talk about it.
I'll talk.
We've gotten a lot of complaints about that already. And then the poll workers, is a list attached, what we received is how much, and they're due tomorrow, the poll worker lists. And the challenges are 2 weeks before. There's a lot of other stuff.
That's it?
That's it. I can update you tomorrow when the mail comes, but I don't guarantee it's gonna be long.
Okay.
But, and then there's registrations, there's other things, it's just stock and clean, we got no boxes for the supplies, and that's it. But the voter participation is a big issue right now. That's it.
Are the town assignments the same as last time?
Yes.
They are. Okay. Jim, any questions of Linda?
Okay, I don't have a written report, but, okay. The reimbursement paperwork was sent into the state for our poll worker payments for the June primary. The voter participation center that Linda was talking about is a group that basically is sending out materials to people where they have by some process, identified people who may not be registered, or, might have moved, or things like that. I mean, I was told at one point that one of the lists, or some of the lists that they're using are magazine subscriptions lists. I don't know. But all I know is that the bottom line is, since they started doing this like a couple of weeks ago, we've been getting a lot of calls from voters complaining. I got this letter, it says I might not be registered, I've been registered for many years, et cetera, what's going on? And it's really causing a lot of, problems with voters. I wound up calling the center. I talked to somebody who just took my name. And then about a couple hours later, I got a call from their lawyer. And I spoke to them, and they sent me 5 mailers that they've been sending out. So we talked about that a little bit. And I explained what our problem is, and I have instructed the staff that if somebody does call, look them up in the system. If they're registered, let them know. If they have a formal complaint, there's an 800 number that I found. And I told the Voter Participation Center, you're gonna get calls because we're gonna direct them to you.
Mr. Volkman, there's a requirement where they're getting the information from, I printed that today, from that email they sent us.
Yeah, I saw this. This is basically, let's see.
It's a data processing algorithm that considers
Yeah,
whether a person
how
is
they-
deceased.
how they find the people that they send out to. So there's, you can read this, they check mailing lists against 2 commercial lists of deceased individuals.
They don't send out.
Applications to people born before 1927.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of things in here that they are using to manage the mailings. And I don't particularly agree with some of them, but I'm short of telling them, and I explained that there's a lot of voters that are complaining.
Right.
And they're gonna get disheartened, and maybe they won't come out to vote. So their efforts to get people to register and vote, they might be shooting themselves in the foot.
Right. This is, the Voter Participation Center is a private nonprofit.
It's a
It's not a
nonprofit.
governmental, it's
No, it's a nonprofit.
an NGO.
They're in Washington DC, however, some of the mailings that we have basically are, say, Trenton on it. But it's not, it's not in
Can
any
we,
state building.
perhaps we can request, which they may not agree with, them to add whatever they send out saying this is not a governmental, we're not a governmental agency.
It
this
does
is a
say that
private-
there's a letter that goes out with every
Yeah.
registration.
It says that.
it's a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
But does it say, it says it's nonprofit organizations, some people don't match up with that.
Well,
I think
I've done
they-
2 things. I've spoken to the Attorney General's office,
Mhm.
as you know, who are our lawyers.
Yep.
And registered our complaints, and I've also spoken to the Division of Elections and a couple other counties, and they're all struggling with the same issue.
Mhm.
So the DOE knows about it, the AG knows about it, et cetera. There's another issue, which I have to gather more information on before,
Mhm.
I act on it, but.
Well, even if it says, I haven't seen what it is, even if it says they're a nonprofit, what do they?
No, it says nonprofit. I can.
Well, because the question is whether anyone could possibly interpret that it's coming from some governmental agency.
Oh, I don't think they think it comes from us or in a government agency.
Right.
It's just that what the voters are complaining about is in there, it's worded in such a way, it doesn't say you're not registered.
Right, so it's they-
but it says
they have
you
to
may
go
not
check
be.
again.
So they have to go out and check, because now they're getting nervous and saying, oh, wait a minute, why? So it's,
Does it say, okay.
they have
No,
good
it's-
intentions, but it's causing some.
Yeah, so the
angst.
question is whether they would cooperate in terms of making the letter clearer.
Yeah,
That we don't know, we have no proof that you are or may not be, are or are not registered, but.
Well, this has just come up like within the last couple,
Yeah.
about 2 weeks, so, we're working on it, but
Okay.
there's some other things I need to do, but after
Right.
that, I'll physically talk to the lawyer again.
Okay.
you know, after I get some consultation from the AG. and-
Well, we certainly don't want to discourage people from
Oh,
voting.
no,
and they
absolutely
shouldn't.
not. And I
Presumably,
follow-
that's their intent, that's exactly the opposite of what their purpose is, but,
Right. Now, on the good side, we've been talking to the Piscataway Library, who is going to do a voter registration drive on September 26th, which all of you, I'm sure, know that it's National Voter Registration Day. Okay? And there are a couple other groups that have called, you know, and they may do something, you know, but they haven't asked for any help from us other than maybe ask a few questions, things like that. So,
There's an organization that does this.
yes.
That's,
Mhm. Yeah.
what's that, the,
Yeah, they usually have, you know, sort of things, but they always reach out and ask for people to join in under their umbrella. But this in the library, they have two libraries in Piscataway. They're gonna have some information in both libraries, and it's my understanding, because when we talked with them, we visited and we talked to them, they're gonna have an ongoing supply of registration forms.
Well, they're governmental entities,
Yeah.
libraries are supposed to have voter registration forms,
Well,
except voter,
I'm not
and
sure
accept
whether-
voter registration.
I'm not sure whether they did, but
Yeah.
they do now.
Okay.
So
In Piscataway.
that's in Piscataway, yes. Okay, now, I believe this is set already, but on the 19th of October, I'm gonna be making a presentation to Rutgers students, you know, just about the general election process, you know, what we do, how we do it, you know, what are some of the issues, some of the concerns.
Is there a particular group that's running it?
Well, I'm doing it with the Eagleton, through the Eagleton group, you know, so,
There.
yeah,
At Eagleton.
at the Eagleton building.
And all the people that go to Eagleton are the ones that already know what's going on.
Well, not
For the most part.
necessarily, because every, as you know, every semester they get a new
Right.
people, and they usually bring them here, so we can have meetings.
Or is this sort of like a train to trainers, tell them what's going on, and because they're the ones who are gonna go out and register?
Yeah, they will be doing that, however, I was asked to present, you know, points of interest, so they get some background too,
Okay.
so they feel more comfortable with, you know, what they're doing, how
Okay.
they're doing it, you know, go over the do's and don'ts.
The residency and all that.
Yeah, residency, if you're physically helping somebody fill out a form, you gotta fill out the assister box, you know, things of that nature, you know, so. Because, you know, and I have to say, Eagleton has been excellent, you know, and since we had those few problems early on, they stepped up to the plate and they're really reaching out and really trying to fix our issues, you know, with, you know, things like residency and things like that. Because as you know, all the students, every semester, most of the students, they move. So they have to change their, you know, address, you know, and then, you know, if they don't, then we have problems on election day, so. Now, as you know, there was a voter information request made by the federal government in each of the states. Many of the states were, you know, balking at responding. It's my understanding about 2 weeks ago, maybe, I don't recall the exact date, but the Division of Election has responded to the federal government with the list of voters for New Jersey. But the information that's contained in that response is only the information that is available
record.
through OPRA. So it's the public information anyway.
Mm.
So there's no driver's license, there's no social security number, you know, things like that.
Numbers, nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
saw
So it's
that.
perfectly appropriate to provide
Yeah,
public information
right,
to people that request public information.
right. So,
I saw it in the media.
Hmm?
I saw it in the media.
okay, as you know, we had the demonstration of the new ES&S voting machine. We thought it was a, you know, pretty good machine. We liked the instant translation feature where you can hit a button and change it to any language you want. And actually you can go back and forth, English to Spanish to Gujarati, you know, whatever. So, you know, that was good. We're just awaiting a estimate for budgetary purposes of what it would cost for a machine and also licenses and all that type of thing.
We're doing the same thing for Dominion's machine.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I talked to them and I think they said somewhere around either the end September, beginning of October, that they would be available. They were gonna call me and let me know when they're gonna be in the area. And I said, that's fine, well, but, you know, the sooner you get it to me, the better it is, because, you know, there's several people I have to coordinate with. And it's right before the November election, so, we you know, we don't have too much time.
The only problem I have is we didn't even see their final product when they were here.
Yeah,
You know, we didn't see the audit, the paper audit trail, we didn't see that.
You could suggest that they perhaps do this post-election.
oh, no, that's, if it gets too close, then obviously that's what we're gonna do. You know, because it's not an urgent issue, but we would like to be in a position by sometime next year to make a more serious look at which machine we would like to go to.
I would
Well,
like to
neither
see
one
their
is
final
finally
product.
approved anyway, they're both in the process.
No, they're
right?
both, but no, well,
Sort
it's
of, at
questionable,
some level.
it's questionable about Dominion,
Mm.
but ES&S has their paperwork indefinitely to the feds, and then as soon as that's done, it gets sent to the state, and then it'll be approved.
Because what Dominion brought here, certain aspects of the machine were still not completed at
Right.
all.
Right.
What
Yeah,
we
there's some
consider an
things that are
operator
lacking.
panel here, that they don't call that anymore.
It's not unusual.
It was held
Yeah.
together with black electrical tape, and it didn't even have any kind of screen on it. Like, they didn't have everything done. We didn't see what their paper audit trail. That's important. The machine cannot be bought without one.
Right.
So we need, it's a federal law. We have to have that on there. I want to see what it's like, how it's gonna operate, what's the maintenance on it. We need to see that type of stuff. So we didn't see their final product. It was nice what they showed us. That wasn't finished.
Yeah.
That was just.
Yeah, well, when they actually stopped here, they were on the road back from a convention in South Jersey, and they stopped by and they said, oh yeah, we have it, you know, it's working, everything's fine. You know, but like I said, I didn't see it.
It's a typical vendor response. I've had, you know, ES&S, an issue when we were doing the vote by mail counters.
Yeah.
ES&S
Yeah.
swore that they were approved, and they were not approved. So,
So, and that's it.
That's it, Jim? Any questions of Jim? Okay, public comment. Charlie?
Hey, everybody, thanks for having me. I'd be interested in attending the event at Eagleton. Is there a date and time?
I don't have it yet. They're supposed to arrange it, but I have to get it quickly because I gotta prepare.
Sure, yeah, no, and I think it's a really important thing to,
Mhm.
you know, I'm obviously from New Brunswick, former Rutgers student, and I know there's constant confusion over the proper way to register and sort of, you know, even after all these years, I'm still learning things about
it's
how
the
it all
nature of
works.
the beast, because the people, it's an always changing
Exactly.
population.
Exactly.
Well, we've made a lot of progress, though, over the last couple of years. I remember when, in, what is it, 04, 05, 06, we had a lot of problems with Rutgers students. But since then, we worked with Eagleton. I provided a lot of documents for their website, you know, how to fill in a form if you're living on campus, off campus, you know, et cetera. And that's helped quite a bit as far as, you know, processing registration. Plus, we've gotten access, limited access to Rutgers databases, so in cases where, you know, we have found issues, we can look up and maybe get an email address or whatever. Because, you know, trying to get phone numbers is difficult, obviously. And so, but it's working a lot better. We've had a lot less issues.
Terrific.
But we still, every election, especially bigger elections, we always have issues with registration forms. People forget to sign it. You know, there's always issues.
Of course, of course. Well, yeah, anything to educate and combat that is great, and
Minimize it.
I'll try to attend if you can, you know, let me know when that's.
And you might want to report on that, because other people will read your stuff online and it'll add education.
Absolutely, yeah, I want to spread that word as far as possible. So there are two issues that I brought up previously I want to follow up on. This summer, I made the board aware of a person who actually lives in the same residence as me, Chelsea Rowe Morosky. Yeah, she voted in the Democrat primary in 2016, attempted to vote in the Democrat primary in 2017, and was turned away because she was somehow changed party. And, you know, I've, you know, she's authorized me to pursue this. I'm trying to find out how that happened. And just in a bigger picture, I'm trying to figure out if that happened to anyone else. Because that's obviously disenfranchisement if people can't vote in their party primary that they choose to affiliate with. That's a very serious concern, and it just so happens that I know her and live in the same home as her. So I wanted to not let this go. I want to follow up on this. I want to figure out how that happened, and once we figure out how that happened, prevent that from happening again.
Well, there are prevention measures in the process already. The person you mentioned, a response did go out to her actually this morning with the issue, what happened. And basically in the 2016 primary, she did vote Democratic. And the book was marked Democratic, and the blue slip was given to her, and we have that. The problem is when it came back here, the person who was going through the book erroneously put her in as a Republican instead of a Democrat. Now, the process that prevents this from continuing on is that a letter goes out to that person, which I believe the last email I got from you mentioned the letter that went out more recently to her. But that same letter went out to her at that time, stating you have been registered as a Republican, et cetera, et cetera. We never got a response that that's not correct.
Okay, so you're saying that in 2016, following the election, there was a letter sent.
There was a letter that went out.
Informing her that she was changed parties.
Correct. Because originally she was unaffiliated, okay? So the letter basically says you're a Republican, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a normal letter that goes out where any change that's made in the system, like that, they have a chance to respond and say, hey, wait a minute, that's a mistake. Okay? All right. Then, so when she went in 2017, she went to vote Democratic. She saw she was Republican. And I believe, if I recall correctly, she did call or contact us. And, the problem is that the other issue that happens to prevent that is she could have gotten a provisional ballot. Okay? So, and she would have gotten a quote Democratic provisional ballot. When that came back, we would have been able to research it, see the issue, and then count that ballot.
Right.
Okay.
I would have fought for it, yeah.
Right.
And so, it's my understanding she wasn't offered a provisional ballot, and so that's unfortunately something that happens to a
That
lot
I'm
of
not
people.
sure,
Yeah.
because, I wasn't there, and it's, trying to go back. But that's the process, okay? So, and then from that perspective, then, when we actually, after you mentioned it, we started going back, looking at the records, but as you know, we have paper up to the ceiling. But it just takes time to go through all of that, okay? So when we found everything and, we made sure everything was correct, we physically changed her to Democratic, which we can do. And another letter went out, which is the one you mentioned in your email, okay? And you were asking, what happened, what's going on. So basically, that's it. So the email that went out, basically it told her about this, explained to her the situation, told her that she's currently Democratic, she lives at this address, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the registration form. If there's anything else that's changed, or you've changed your address or anything else, send us that, before the election, and we'll fix the record.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for looking into it. I
No,
appreciate it.
I mean, anything like that I appreciate knowing about, because, people are human, mistakes are made, and that's what happens. Now, as about your question about other issues, okay, we're not aware of any. Typically, the letters would come back to say something happened, but I'm not aware of any other issues that happened specifically in that election. So, but, if you go out and you talk to people, I encourage them, look for that letter, send us the letter back, that type of thing.
Thank you.
All right?
And yeah, I do think it is a kind of a recurring problem with folks not being offered the provisional ballot. Obviously, it depends on the poll worker, depends on the situation, but it's something that I think ought to be emphasized more.
It is. 100% is in every poll.
Emphasized in
Every training.
Our problem here is we have 480,000 registered voters, roughly?
Over 500,000.
No, we have over 500,000 registered voters, so we have, it's inevitable for over that, and over 2,500 to 3,000, I don't know exactly where we are in terms of poll clerks.
2,500 plus.
We train them, but with 2,500, you can have some people where you could sit them in front of you 10 times in a year, say the same thing, and then it still doesn't percolate. We do the best we can on it. Unfortunately, it's inevitable that they're going to have some mistakes. The concept is to try to minimize that, and of course, as Jim had mentioned, the provisional ballot system is the fail-safe. And part, of course, it depends on the poll clerks doing what they're trained to do.
When we have a script in the very beginning of the training, and it's one of the very first things that's emphasized. Because what we try to pound in their head is do not let a voter walk away feeling disenfranchised. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it, give them one. Even if they're in the wrong building and they just refuse to go anywhere, don't let them walk away without voting. Just give it to them. If it doesn't count, we'll find that out later.
Right.
I mean that's the fail-safe system. So we try, honestly, it's hammered in. It really is, as many times as we can.
I will say, oftentimes, one of the commissioners does an introduction at these poll clerk training sessions. And I know when I do it pre-primary, which is the last one I always say, because it's always an issue. Someone who says they're a Republican, or they say they're Republican, but they're listed as a Democrat and they want to vote in a Republican primary. Same thing. And the emphasis, it's done by the staff, but beforehand say, remember, they can only vote what they're listed on the machine. If somebody's got a problem, give them a provisional ballot. So that's done by the outstanding expert or the person in the suit, the expert because they have the briefcase or whatever it is. Then it's done again by the staff. So.
And I have to say that in many cases where there's a party issue, a party complaint, a lot of times it's where they voted in a previous primary and they forgot. You know, they voted for a friend, they voted for an issue, or whatever. They become that other party, and then they say, well, I never did that. You know, and I understand
often
that.
It's many years before.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, when we go back, that's why we say paperwork and everything else.
The
So.
provisional is the answer.
Yes.
So even if that's the case and they're upset because they're a registered Republican or trying to vote, just give them a provisional ballot.
Right.
I tell,
That's
even if I
right.
get calls from poll clerks, because we deal with machine calls, and if I ever get, that's the first thing I tell them. Just please give it to them. Don't let them walk away feeling dissatisfied. If it's wrong, we'll figure that out when it comes back here.
If
In the
you-
office too, we also tell them the same thing when they call on election day, it's constant.
If you know of a specific instance in a specific district that they didn't do this, even if it's given them everything, yes, let us know, because
Yes,
we
of course.
want to. We have lots of letters that go out to poll clerks saying you didn't do what you were supposed to
Every
do. This
election.
is what you're supposed to do, and you better do it or else.
That's a full-time job.
I get a hit list.
Yeah. It's a very, very big list and a lot of letters that Jim sends out.
And I typically, what I'll do is I'll send it to the person who's in question, and I will copy, CC, the rest of the group. So they all are aware of the issue.
Gotcha.
Okay? So, and that only helps.
But
And you
if you have any of that information,
Especially specific.
we
Right.
love to get it because we want to keep things done as properly as possible.
That's great to hear. Thank you for the thorough answers.
You had another issue?
Yeah, the other issue, when somebody votes provisionally, from a new address, they are then registered at that address, correct?
Yeah, well, obviously, when the provisional comes back, we check the veracity of the information.
Right.
Obviously. If it is a voter change from going from one part of New Brunswick to another part, or from town to town, whatever, we'll make the change. Right.
Right. And so my concern is with a voter that I brought up at the summer, Michael Ross, formerly of North Brunswick, who we discussed his provisional ballot at one of these meetings. He had put down 67 Lewis Street in New Brunswick, and an apartment number that doesn't exist in that building. And his ballot was counted, but not for the local races, which was, I agree, the appropriate outcome. But I'm concerned now that he's registered at an improper address. And I've tried to verify, if he's living there, I haven't found any evidence to suggest he actually lives at that address. And now he's on the rolls in New Brunswick.
It's an apartment house, and that's an apartment unit number that he has on it.
There's a upstairs and a downstairs.
He put the New Brunswick address, but he's in North.
No, he was in North
He was
Brunswick.
registered in.
And he listed new
He's saying that
business.
he moved to New Brunswick.
Okay.
The ballot was counted, but only for
Not
the-
local.
Everything
not
above
locals,
it.
anything above, since he was in New Brunswick.
Okay.
And
New
the
Brunswick.
provisional with the new address would normally act as a change of, as a change of
Is
Is he
address.
still in New Brunswick?
Too new.
Well, not yet.
You
I
don't
think,
know.
I've tried to verify, it doesn't look like he lives.
It's
in
a
New Brunswick.
two-family house?
Yeah.
Is
But-
it, do you know who's living in the other unit? I mean, do we have, if we see that there were two sets of people with, at the same address in the two, more than two, then that would be,
That would be one thing, that just on its face, he kind of crossed out the apartment number and wrote B3. And there's no B3, there's only
he must be a big
A and B or 1 or 2, but there's,
He's in the basement.
But we must have sent him an acknowledgement.
I've actually been in that basement, I don't think that's a habitable
once that
basement.
happens,
He
an
must have gotten an
acknowledgement card would have been mailed to
Jim,
him.
let's look, we'll look into it again. I mean, just this discussion has
Yeah.
happened before,
Okay.
so let's research it one more time.
Check it,
And-
check it out.
And the only suggestion I have for you is tell the prosecutor that you think there's something
Yeah.
wrong,
Okay.
and send a letter to the prosecutor.
Okay, I was gonna suggest you guys do that, but I'll.
You can do it.
I will.
No, that's
You're a
fine. You
citizen,
can
that's
do-
fine, you
you
can
can
do
do
that.
Okay, I will.
Actually, it might help.
Sure. No, I'll be happy to do that. And then the last thing is, I just want to hear a little bit about the changes that are being made to the SVRS system. I heard it'll affect mail-in ballots, and will it also affect provisionals, or what specifically is going to be?
We don't know about our our office, Board of Elections. All we were just at the webinar, they showed the mail-in ballot, which is a county clerk screen. So it's just a screen. It's nothing to do with registering people. It's just a different database. It's a new company, it's a new database.
Okay, to be able to keep track of that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be even more
It
up to
sounds like
date.
nothing that relates to.
Different search screens, different search engines, different
They're trying to
formatting,
make
different,
some of the processes a
more
little more
user-friendly,
efficient and
yeah.
user-friendly.
It sounds like nothing.
showing maps.
Nothing that's an interface with the individual,
No,
either
no.
way in or out.
We don't really know the whole thing. We haven't been involved in the Board of Elections end of it, just the county clerk today for the first time.
Gotcha. But so mail-in ballots?
It was just a different way of entering into the system, more information, more screens, more labels. If you put an address in, a little map comes up to show you where the person is, if you're interested in that. It was a lot today with them.
Okay, but provisionals not?
No, they didn't do provisionals. Did they do provisionals for you? No, they didn't do provisionals.
Okay. Thank you very much for the thorough answers.
You're welcome. Any commissioner comments? No? 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 Okay. The next meeting is October the 5th at 5 PM.
Jim, can you go with vote?
Hmm?
Wait,
Can you go with vote?
Yes. Here you go. I'd like to just call for an executive session.
okay.
Move to executive session.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Engel?
Yeah.
Commissioner Frank?
Yes.
Commissioner Cowles?
Yes.